Sex was wonderful. Even with a heart full of grievances, Quinn could still find pleasure in it. Alexander had a great physique, and he and Quinn made love for a full hour. Both immersed in the ecstasy of sex, they both reached climax. When Quinn opened her eyes again, it was already the next morning. Alexander was in the bathroom, leaving Quinn alone in bed. After the passion faded, emptiness set in. Quinn was in pain. She couldn't feel any love from Alexander, only his lust. What did Alexander see her as? A wife? Or a whore? As Quinn was about to get dressed, the phone on the bedside table suddenly vibrated. It was Alexander's phone. Someone had sent a message to Alexander. Quinn glanced at it. It was a message from a woman named Getty Morgan to Alexander. Getty's message read, "You promised to be with me tonight. Why did you go back to that disgusting mute?" Seeing the message, Quinn felt deeply distressed. So, Alexander had come back so late last night because he was with another woman. Just then, the bathroom door slowly opened, and Alexander stepped out after his shower. Quinn quickly averted her gaze from the phone screen, pretending she hadn't seen anything, and continued dressing. Alexander walked to the bed, picked up his phone, and glanced at Quinn, who was getting dressed. "Did you see the message someone sent me?" Alexander asked casually. Quinn quickly shook her head. She remembered what Alexander had told her on their wedding day. "Don't fall in love with me. I'll take care of you, but don't expect more." Alexander had made it clear no love. So, even if she saw the message, what could she do? Alexander never cared about her feelings, let alone whether she would be jealous, sad, or in pain. Someone who isn't cared for has no right to be angry. Her love, her emotions, to Alexander, perhaps they were just burdens. Quinn gestured in sign language. "I'll go prepare breakfast." With that, Quinn endured the soreness in her body, slowly got up, and headed to the kitchen. Watching Quinn's frail figure, Alexander glanced at the phone and eventually deleted Getty's message. Soon, Quinn had breakfast ready. They sat together at the table in silence. "Come with me to Kennedy residence later," Alexander suddenly spoke. Quinn smiled and nodded. Alexander looked at Quinn. Quinn was always so obedient, always smiling no matter what. But her compliance seemed to erase her personality. A person without a personality is truly uninteresting. After breakfast, Alexander drove Quinn to Kennedy residence. Quinn was brought to Alexander by his grandfather, Ulysses Kennedy, who adored Quinn. 3 years ago, Ulysses was critically ill and ordered Alexander to marry Quinn. However, at that time, Alexander was in love with another woman. That woman was Getty, the one who had just messaged Alexander. Getty and Alexander had grown up together, childhood sweethearts. Although Alexander liked Getty, he dared not defy his grandfather's command and ultimately married Quinn. Quinn loved Alexander, even though she couldn't express that love. But Alexander didn't love Quinn. A one-sided love in marriage is destined to be a tragedy. Quinn deeply felt this deeply after marriage. Alexander's heart wasn't with her. It was with that woman named Getty. Alexander brought Quinn to Kennedy residence. It was a lively day at Alexander's home because his sister Freya had given birth to a son, and they were celebrating with a feast. Quinn followed Alexander into the hall. In the hall, Alexander's mother, Caitlin, was holding her grandson, smiling. But as soon as she saw Quinn, her expression darkened. Clearly, Caitlin didn't like Quinn. Quinn greeted Caitlin, who seemed to ignore her, engrossed in conversation with her son Alexander and daughter Freya. Being ignored, Quinn didn't get angry. She just stood quietly on the side. Freya glanced at Quinn and said, "Look how cute the baby is. Why don't you and my brother have a child?" Caitlin snorted, "Having one mute in the family is embarrassing enough. If you have another mute, I won't be able to show my face." Upon hearing this, Alexander glanced at Quinn, who lowered her head, looking mournful. Freya's mention of having a child was clearly a jab. Last year, Quinn was pregnant, but Caitlin forced her to have an abortion for fear she would give birth to another mute child.